Right. I'd like to welcome to the Inspirational Women interview, Ashley, all the way from where, Ashley?
Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm in the States.
North Carolina. Oh my God. I
Yeah,
just,
it's 9:34 p.m. for me right now. On Thursday. You're like all the way on Friday already.
I know, time travel, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Traveled ahead of me.
It's a good day. It's lovely weather. Oh, no,
Oh,
thank you so much for staying up, Ashley, and for jumping in to do this interview at short notice. Really, really appreciate that.
I do
And
it.
I want to kick off, first of all, by starting off by how you and I met, because that's quite interesting in itself. I haven't been to North Carolina. We met online and not on a dating site.
No.
And I'm not a dancer, so I didn't meet you through dancing. So from memory, it was all the way back to a Dean and Tony event. It was Project Next, wasn't it? And
Yep.
then Project Next Level. And then we went on and did the training all online about running your own business, which has just been phenomenal. Uh,
Absolutely.
So can you fill me in a bit about, that experience? What drove you to take that training up? Because I know that's going to be an interesting story.
I know that's going to be an
I
interesting. I
know.
love. Well, first off, Kate, thank you for inviting me to connect with you and share with your amazing community. Yeah, you have met in this world of, for me, this world of truly overwhelm. Like I knew I wanted to do more with I teach dance. So I'm a dance teacher. I used to own a brick and mortar studio before I became a mom. I have 3 kids and I homeschool my kids. And so I know what sort of blood, sweat, and tears goes into owning a brick and mortar studio, dance studio. And it's not a business like my husband's a chiropractor and has regenerative medicine clinics. It's not a medical type business. It's not a mom and pop, like we're going to sell, bikes type business. A dance studio is truly an extension of family. And, you're working with people's kids and these kids become your kids. Like I used to joke and say I would take, and this is kind of a funny joke, but maybe not so funny to everybody, but I used to say I would take 100 more dance students if I didn't have to take the parents, because it really can be this exhausting game of you're teaching dance to the kid and you love the kid and you instill all this energy and this passion, but then you have to deal with the parent from a different psychological aspect because everybody's parent or everybody's kid is the best and all these things. And so it became very extremely rewarding to own my business, but also very exhausting. And I was very young, so I sold my business and I went and danced professionally. And anyways, years go by and I became a mom. And at the point that you and I met, Kate, I had actually just had a miscarriage. And my miscarriage was the catalyst for me
Mm.
to try to do more. So before my miscarriage, I again homeschooled 3 kids, and my youngest wasn't homeschooling yet. She was tiny. She was only 2. And there was a part of me that had been teaching personal, like private lessons one-on-one on my own personal calendar for years because I knew I would never own a brick and mortar studio again. I was like, nope, been there, done that. But I love teaching dance. And I have very clear core values in my life, something I'm very proud of. Like I work really hard to make sure I maintain those
Mm.
clear core values without, letting everybody else's influences creep in. And one of the things was I don't want to sacrifice this time as a mom to be present. And so I didn't want to just go be in another studio teaching, every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so I started building up this private lesson one-on-one base around my calendar and all these things. But when I had the miscarriage, there was a part of me that was like, I was mad. I mean, grieving. There's all the stages, right? But I was mad, and I thought, well, I want to do more. I have all this energy built up. I want to do more, and I want to make an impact, and I want to share this passion that I have. And so I actually found, I don't know about you, Kate, but I found Dean and Tony randomly on a whim scrolling through Facebook, an ad popped up.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who Dean Graziosi was whenever I saw this ad. I was like, I don't know who this guy is. And to tell you the extent of my Tony Robbins experience, at that point, all I knew was that Tony Robbins was this really tall guy that was into like, I didn't even know how to like describe personal development really. And I knew that he was in what he does like a cameo in some movie, maybe Shallow Hal or something. I don't know. He does like a cameo. And that's all I knew of Tony Robbins. Like I've never been in the tracks and listening to the things, never read any of his books. So I did the free event online. It was a 5-day thing. I was like, yes, this is me. It's time to thrive. I've just had this experience and blah on this experience and I want more, and just kind of dove in. But tech was super overwhelming. So when you and I met, there was a lot of things that they were throwing at us with tech.
Mm.
Because we're all trying to create our businesses online. Well, you can't do online without tech. So I remember when you and I first met, I remember being in overwhelmed. So that's the word I said. Long story short, that's the word I said. But overwhelm, it was part of it for me big, because I had to really come over this big hurdle. And then the other part of it was I also had to silence the mom guilt of like, you're going to change up your entire trajectory of what you guys do and how you live your life. And you said your core values were mom, we're family time, and now you're going to make it. There was a lot of things going on in here, but on the other side of it now, it's so beautiful. And it's crazy to think of how much we've done in only 2 years. Crazy.
Yeah. And I want to come back to that, the fact that you didn't know Dean and Tony, because it's quite interesting, because I was the complete opposite to you. I followed Tony for years. I was really fortunate to go to his UPW in Florida. I know that was my that was incredible. And I also, but I'd not long known about Dean.
Mhm.
And I think, it's so interesting that two complete different people can come to appreciate something with very different backgrounds in their experience. I mean, you knowing nothing. And I think that just shows the quality of what they provide, that it is able to attract people from such a wide range.
I think it definitely shows the quality of what they provide, but I think more than anything, it shows the quality of really good marketing.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Uh, in all transparency, I mean, they said all the things that I was thinking in my head. I was like, there, he's in my head, like, get
Yeah,
out of head, and so I was just like, I can't not listen. You know exactly what I'm thinking. So that's
yeah,
really good marketing.
yeah. And also what you said about your values, because that just, I'm laughing. I was laughing when you said it, because that's something that I have uh, talked about, and I talk about all the time in my coaching and in my group. And it's so neat when somebody who's not me brings that up without prompting. And, the fact that you are actually referring to your values to make these pretty major decisions in your life. And this is something that I think we need to be drawing people's attention to, is that you don't just have your set of values sitting over here that
No.
aren't
Yeah.
connected. Do you know what I mean? You're actually living them and you're drawing on them to support you, rather than randomly in the moment trying to make a decision based on how you feel in the moment. And I think this is something that, from a psychologist perspective, is really important, because how do you support people trying to make major decisions? Only that person can make that decision. But you can support them by encouraging them to draw on what's important to them, what's meaningful to them, where do they find their joy, why are they doing this in the first place? So it was lovely to hear you talk about that in relation to, letting go of the business, choosing this business. Can I talk to you about homeschooling?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well, and homeschooling it ties right into those core values we're mentioning. Yeah, yeah. And I think that going into the core values thing really quick too, I think that a lot of people in my world, in the dance world or in the fitness world, because I work with a lot of people online that are adults that are struggling with fitness. And I'm not talking like bodybuilding fitness or dance even. I'm talking like They just have a habit, a routine. They go to work, let's say they work a 9 to 5, they come home from work, and they don't want this routine. They don't want the habits that they have, but the habits look like they come home, they maybe get a snack, they lay on the couch, and then basically like their motivation to get back up and to exercise or to even cook a well-balanced meal is like, it's the habit. And so I work with a lot of that, or I work with people that have had some really big injuries and they're looking for just some fitness. And so tap dancing is a lot of cognitive exercise just as much as it's physical. And so we have to talk about the core values in every aspect of these things, because ultimately habits are habits, and whatever we're practicing, we're getting good at. So practicing the same thing is what it is. Like practicing is just doing, it's repetition, right? So whatever we're practicing, we're getting good at. And so when you have the habit that doesn't align with the core value, it is a lot easier when you know your core values. It is a lot easier to break those bad habits. It's when you're like, I want to stop biting my nails, but you don't have a real good reason why, you're not going to stop. So I think that having core values is a non-negotiable to living a happy, healthy life. And we all want a happy, healthy life. Those two words are what everybody wants. So I feel like, yes, yeah, I mean, we could talk about core values all day. I get so excited about that, but it's part of my coaching too. But the homeschool, that started, Kate, out of honestly overwhelm again. I'm starting to here. So my oldest son, he is 12 now, but he went to preschool, the 2-year-old, the 3-year-old, and the 4-year-old preschool. And that was like 2 days a week and then 3 days a week. And at the end of the 4-year-old preschool, or excuse me, halfway through 4-year-old preschool year, the typical thing here in North Carolina, I'm not sure what it looks like over there in New Zealand for you, but you sign your kid up for whatever kindergarten they're going to go to. Mm. And the majority of the class, pretty much everybody in his little preschool class, were going to either, this was a Catholic preschool, so they were going to the Catholic school, which was a perfect feed in, which is also a lot of money, or they were going to the neighborhood school because they all lived right there. So already I knew I was not paying for Catholic kindergarten, like $13,000 or $10,000 a year for, like, that's not, that wasn't, I thought that was silly. So I wasn't going to do that. No judgment on anybody else, just for me, no. And then the neighborhood school we couldn't get into because we didn't live in the zoning thing. So I already knew my son was going to go somewhere that he didn't have any friends. So that was already like disconnect from FOMO. FOMO's real. And I knew already that I had that, like, well, we're not missing out because we don't have those two options. So I started touring. In our county, there are a ton of schools. I don't know, everybody all over the world has their opinions about schooling being good, bad, whatever. So that's a whole topic. But there were so many that came across, and they pitched them to me when I went to do all the tours as like these amazing schools with these amazing things. But ultimately for me, Kate, I toured like eight elementary schools, and they all like tried to sell me like it was college so I could pick their school. And I was like, this is almost, it's overwhelming, but I was like, it's almost disgusting, because they would flaunt their like test scores of these little kids. And then they would show me around they'd walk me around the school and they'd show me the cafeteria, and all the kids that were sitting in there were just kind of like, they looked miserable. I was looking at these cute little sweet faces, and none of these kids looked completely joyous. They didn't look like they were like vibrant and so happy. They were just like doing the thing. And of course, some of them even had kids come up and talk, and I was like, this is just, it's weird. And I didn't like it. So I got a weird vibe. But ultimately I had a friend that said, well, have you thought about homeschooling? And I said, no, not really. I know nothing about it. I wasn't homeschooled. My husband wasn't homeschooled. We know nobody personally. And she was like, well, we're going to do it. Do you want to do it? And at the time I said, well, I know nothing. How did you decide? So she started sending me material. I read like a chapter of a book, and I was like, listen, you know what? Core values. I love to learn new things. I know that about myself, and I trust myself to be able to find the knowledge. I'm resourceful enough. I was like, I closed the book. I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know what style of homeschooling I'm going to do. There's so many things that you could say you're a certain type of homeschooler. I don't know anything. I'm just going to do it. And I think a part of my personality is I like to just figure it out as I go. It's very exhilarating. It's fun. I don't get overwhelmed to the point where some people get paralysis when they don't know like the next step. It's different, right? Introvert, extrovert type personality. So we just went for it. And I've never looked back. We live in an incredible county. There's a lot of cool resources. So I absolutely love it. And I can't tell you enough about how amazing homeschooling has been for each one of my children, but also for me and for my family as a whole. My children are very tight. Their relationships are very close. We've learned a lot about learning how to learn. So yeah, I mean, if you have any specific questions, you let me know. But homeschooling, I am a big advocate. And if anybody has any questions, I share like almost like a fire hydrant. I get too excited.
Well, I mean, I got corrupted by homeschoolers when I came back to New Zealand. I was a teacher, and yeah, well, as you know, I left teaching for some of the reasons that you pointed out. Sad children, sad situations, and yeah, definitely not aligned with my core values.
Well, I believe for me, I believe that in our home, what my value is we live a learning lifestyle. That can apply to homeschooling. That can apply to my son's soccer, my daughter's dance, when my kids play piano, my kids play tennis. Me learning how to bring my business online, learning platforms like Kajabi and all these things. Like it's always a learning lifestyle. Like I'm learning something new every single day. And so is everybody in my home. And so if you live that way, that you're always learning, if you live that way that you're always learning, it becomes this almost like intriguing, what's the next thing I'm going to learn? And you're looking for it. And that's a huge psychological thing, like looking for the good versus looking for the problem, looking for what we can learn versus looking for what's stopping us. It's massive. So that's the biggest thing for homeschooling that I think is for us, the best thing. When I talk to all of our family members, my nieces, my nephews, my cousins, like everybody that has children or even like the teenagers and stuff themselves that I work with still, I work with a lot of kids still. The zest to learn is not there. They truly, a lot of the students that I have, they believe that learning is done at school and that when you're out of school, it's like free time, right? Like we don't have to do anything because we're not at school. And I'm like, but I think I was that way too, except I just went straight to dance. And so I went from like learning what they wanted me to learn to learning what I wanted to learn. So then when I got out of dance, I was just like, oh, I'm done. I'm tired. So I didn't have a lot of time, but I love it. Fiona said, well, I would homeschool now, but I do it myself with 6. So we had a small country primary, less than 20 kids. Wow.
Yeah.
So Fiona has 6. Do you have 6 kids? Fiona? That's amazing. If so. I'm like Superwoman badge going right over there. That's incredible.
Hi.
Pop it in the chat,
Hi.
Fiona.
Okay.
Pop it in the chat. Yeah.
Wow. So, but learning lifestyle is also part of that. A big part of that is critical thinking. And that's a skill that a lot of adults, people, kids, of course, because they're modeling what us adults are doing. But that's a skill that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
Critical thinking.
Yeah. Say no more. It's interesting that you said that, looking for the good too, because I think that's something that came out of my training. It was definitely intuitive in me, the positive reinforcement, looking for opportunities that you can reinforce what you want, which gets you looking for that, as opposed to trying to punish stuff that you don't want. And I love the way you talked about that it's such a mind shift, isn't it? Looking for what you want, looking for what you want. And the thing about teaching and learning, I think, and I'll be interested to hear what your distinction is I think we confuse academic learning and just learning generally. We're learning all the time, but then we have that prescription, that academic stuff that we're sitting there and we're learning to write or we're learning to do whatever. But as a teacher, I saw so many missed opportunities for learning, as you say, like, going shopping and getting the kids to pick stuff off the shelves, find stuff that weighs 500 grams, find stuff that weighs. And a friend of mine who homeschooled, that's why I wanted to ask you about it. She said, yeah, she had never had trouble with her kids shopping because they had tasks. She'd have them looking for stuff, and it's all around you, isn't it? Opportunity.
Well, I mean, simple things too. Like a shopping example that just happened for us this week. So my daughter likes these specific yogurts. My middle child, she likes these strawberry yogurts. This is an example of how we do this all the time. And the yogurts can come in their own little individual glass jar, and you can buy 2 for $3 is usually the deal. You get 2 for $3, that's the price. But every once in a while, they'll have the pack of 4 all bundled together, and then that's its own price. And she went to go pick 4 of the 2 for $3s. And I said, okay, how much does that cost? And she was like, well, that'd be $6. I said, okay, that's great. 2 for $3, you got 4. Yes, that's $6. How much is the pack of 4? She's like $4.27. And I was like, so why are we paying the $6 instead of the $4.27? You're good. But it was an experience of her to just, and that's math. Okay, yes, we weaved in the math. But that's an experience of critical thinking. I was like, girlfriend, you're just grabbing that. You went habitual. You went habitual. I'm going to grab 2. Oh, wait, I actually want 4 because I love them. So that was a habit. You didn't even pause to look about opportunity and, what they're right there next to each other. Granted, she maybe didn't see it, right? But the point is, there's so many ways that you weave in learning, yes, outside of just the academic. So we hit on the academic quick, 2 for $3 times 4, like we got 4. That was quick, academics, boom, done. But the bigger picture of what we learned there is so much more important than the math. And so, yeah, I love that. And that's how homeschooling, I think, becomes a beautiful relationship in homes. I hear it all the time that I could never homeschool my kids. I could never. Oh my gosh, I need a break from my kids. And I think to myself, that's such a societal response. That's not true. That's not true. Before your children went to school, you were their primary educator. You taught them how to walk. How did you teach them how to walk? Did you grab their legs and move them and then go, okay, stand up straight? No. You know how you taught them to walk? You modeled it every day by showing up and doing it. By walking to the house, you taught them how to walk. You modeled it. That's what homeschooling is. I model to my kids. And so, I mean, creating my business online when you and I met was what I had, the loop that I had to change in my head was I went from going, oh gosh, we've been homeschooling this beautiful way of like almost privilege, okay, that my husband can work and that I can work when I need to, want to, but I don't have to have a full-time job. So I get that. Not everybody can do that. That is, I 100% understand that. And I'm very grateful that I was able to do homeschooling in that way. But everything was a budget. Everything was, you find it wasn't like, here, just spend whatever you want. You have one income essentially. So there was that. And I hit a point where I was like, man, but we can have park days in the middle of the day and we can go to the free day at the museum whenever we want. And I can spend all this time with my kids. Oh gosh, if I'm going to start my own online business, you don't run a business just a few days a week. I mean, this is a 24/7 thing when you're, especially in the beginning, starting it up. Am I ready? And we had a coach named Raph in our community when we were in, and I mean, I'll just say this for everybody else to know, but like Raph was like the super masculine, like, go get it, work hard, and he fueled me for sure. And as much as sometimes it would very much go against my core values of like motherhood and slow and being in the present moment, I needed that drastic push to get me like up the hill. But my point in sharing all of that is I actually learned that by doing the thing, following my own passion, because that's what I'm doing. I'm following my passion and I love what I'm doing. By doing that, I was really actually becoming a better homeschool mom because I was modeling every messy step I'm taking, every opportunity to show up vulnerably in front of other adults and just share and be me. I have a kid right here on the other side of the camera listening to everything. Like, she might be asleep now, but anyway, she's there. They're a part of it all. So homeschooling isn't just academics. No, it is literally modeling everything that you do, even the bad days, the days where you lose it. And you're like, just, you model. Like, sometimes people have had enough. I'm sorry that I may have not done the best thing in the moment, but I'm owning it. And here's what we can do better as a team and all that. It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's my most favorite thing that I've ever done in my whole life, homeschooling my kids.
I love it, Ashley. And I just, you just talking about RAF, and I think you and I had a conversation about this. It's actually ties in really nicely with something I was talking about needing that. The lambs on the side.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing, Fiona. Sorry, I was listening, Raph, but I was like, wait.
But needing that push and that short-term intensity, but that's not sustainable because
No.
it's not aligned, as you said, with our core values. And what I've been sharing with recently is that idea of what have I learned from that I can adapt moving forward, that enables me to do something that is aligned with my values, but also sustainable for me as an individual. Because I definitely felt like you, I needed that boot. But at some point, you had to make it workable for you.
I love that. I love that. Very clear. Like there's a point at which you push, and then
Yeah.
there's a point at which you check in. So, Kate, I don't know if I've ever even told you this, but in my coaching programs, I use what I call my dance framework. So, dance is an acronym. D is decide, A is aligned action, N is notice, C is create, and E is energy. And that's literally how I actually live my life. It's not just how I coach.
Mm.
It's learning lifestyle. It's what I've learned about myself. It's fun to put the acronym to it because that's what I do. Is I love dance, but the D is decide. And I feel like with RAF and having that intense coach, that was the moment of like decision, burn the boats, right? Like I'm
Mm.
deciding, going all in. And you have to stay there sometimes for a little while at that like high interval training
Mm.
to break the noise, right? All the imposter syndrome, all the I don't know, but I don't know how to do it. I'm gonna mess up all that. You have to push really hard to get past that sometimes at this really high. But you eventually the next step is aligned action. And if it's not in alignment, it will start to bubble up to the point where you're like, I don't know if this isn't even what I want. Now I'm pushing and I'm burning the candle at both ends, and this isn't what I want. So then you get to notice, that's part of my framework, and then you create the opportunity to take the next aligned action. And I think that it's always a dance in life. Like some days the dance is like tango and it's all tight, and it's like da, 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 and then other days it's literally like this pretty ballet or lyrical. Then other days it's musical theater and it's all fun. And so I feel like for me, I'm like it's important. And I think who you surround yourself with as your coach is just exactly what you're going to get out of it. So who you pick for your coach is incredibly important. And I mean, RAF was what I needed in the moment, but I didn't know I needed it. So I
Yeah.
knew I also couldn't sustain it either. but
Yeah.
again, mom, he wouldn't, or a woman. He's not even a woman. So
I
like
know. Yeah.
you have to be in proximity to the people that you can relate to for sure.
And I think what I'm linking it back to now, and I've had this discussion with a colleague of mine who's a PT, and they've got their own they train bodybuilders as well, and he's got this thing about the 12-week challenges and the 8-week challenges, and how they set people up for failure, because you can get an outcome in a very short space of time if you go all in and do incredible stuff. But most people come out the other side without tools to actually keep going. And I think the missing link is that, what do you take from that 12-week intense training that you adapt to have a lifestyle the other side? And I think this is a similar sort of thing with this coaching. When you do something really intense, what do you then take from it and learn from it and adapt to be aligned with your values and to be able to keep it, to sustain it, which I think is what you beautifully put just then, that dance. I really, really like that analogy. And I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, but I also think that you have to meet the person. And there were people in our community when you and I went through it that that, I mean, I noticed would shut down
Mm,
when the coaches would get really intense. So it's really I mean, I've been teaching dance for 3 decades, 2 decades teaching it, but I've been doing dancing for 3 decades. And I'm like, in 2 decades of teaching, of coaching kids and adults and, rooms of hundreds of people and one-on-ones, I will tell you, I don't walk into a room and teach the exact same way every single time.
mm,
I might teach the same combination to a soloist, to a room of 25 people, and to a room of 300 people. It might be the exact same routine, but the way I teach it depends on the person that I'm talking to. And I think sometimes as a coach, that's what makes a good coach, is being able to read the room. I say this to my kids all the time: read the room, people. Read the room. Is, read the room and see, are they connecting with you? Is this hitting? I mean, if you were watching me during, I mean, not that you should have been, but like, I'm just saying, if somebody was watching me while Raph was coaching, I'm like, I loved it. So I clearly was a good candidate for that coaching.
mm,
I could open up the Zoom gallery and click aside, and some people were like, shrinking or completely just distracted because it wasn't pulling them in. So everybody's different. I think sometimes those 12-week programs can truly make an impact, because
mm.
if somebody goes through them and they get success, then some people will say, if I did it once, I can do it again. But then there's other people that go, well, now what? I think it's all a dance. Everybody is different. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic for sure. I have like 14-day programs, but they're not intense. They're
Mm.
truly based on joy, because I think that it should be fun. It was fun for me to be in those trainings. But if it's not fun, what are we doing it for? Life's short, man. It should
Love
be
it.
fun.
It
It should
should.
always be
And I think this is it, isn't it? Which goes right back to, why am I doing it in the first place?
fun. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
get-
What are your core values? What matters to you?
yeah.
Fun
And
isn't somebody's core value, but for me, that's how it is for me.
the other thing that it ties into is something that I talked about today in my live, which was, and you talked about it, about the influence of the people around you, and how the subtle influence can be that, you need to be busy, you need to be grinding all the time. If you're not busy, you know stuff's not happening and there's something wrong. And I have really had to pull myself up on that. The tendency to get caught up when people say, oh, you must be so busy. And I thought, no, I'm not. I've got a lot going on, but I refuse to buy into that busy. Because to me, it symbolizes rushing around, not really appreciating anything, not clear on where you're going, chaos. It's just what it sums up for me.
I
But that,
know exactly what you're saying, and I've actually caught myself saying I'm busy. Like, it's how are you? Oh, it's great. It's so busy. But like, life is so good. And you know what, Kate? It's funny that you say this, because this actually happened to me today. This morning, somebody texted me to check in on Facebook asking something. And she said, "How is life?" And I said, "Life is so great." And then I said, she said, "How's the kids? How's the family?" And I was like, "Oh, it's so busy. Dance has started back, soccer has started back, tennis starts next week, all the stuff." And then before I sent the message, because I was typing it, before I sent it, I read it 3 times, maybe 4. And I actually highlighted the word busy many times to delete it. So it's really weird, not weird, because this is the way the universe works, that you say this, because I wanted to delete the word, because busy to me, also the same thing, like almost, I felt like if you read it, you could perceive it as I was like, oh, I'm so busy. But that's not what I meant. I meant it's so busy, like it's full of life. And the only reason I didn't take that word out is because my coaching this month, is my packet is right here, my workbook. And ours was talking about tonality and mirroring. And so I actually texted it to her. I left the word, and then I sent a voice memo, because I thought she needs to hear the tone, the joy in my voice, like the sheer gratitude in my voice for all the things. So I sent her a message, but it's because of the tone that the word didn't have a negative connotation. But when I read it, 100%, I actually almost deleted it, because I was like, the word, ugh.
I
I
love
didn't mean it But I 100% hear you. Busy. We're so busy. Oh, I don't have time. I'm so busy. And it's like, you're not busy. You chose to put that stuff there. You're
Mm,
not too busy. You're just, your schedule's full.
mm.
But you chose all those things in your schedule. It's a choice.
We on dangerous ground now, talking about choices.
Ooh, I love talking about choice.
It's interesting. I always find myself saying that. It's interesting you say that. The idea, because I talk a lot about language and meaning and definition and being clear on shared understanding of what a word means. And to me, busy is one of those words, because I love it when you said about tone. And that's critical, isn't it? When you get a text, you read it in the tone that you're in at the time.
Yes. I do not like text messaging. If anybody is in my circle, they will at some point get a voice memo from me. And then after they get one, they pretty much get like only voice memos from me. I don't like, well, one, I don't like to look at my screen, especially because my kids are home all the time with me. I'm with them 24/7 and I don't want them to see me like this, looking here. So I can do voice memos and get through to the things. I can multitask in the best way that I can. And do a memo and still see what's going on in the world, be present, eye contact, right? So that's one reason that I love them, but also tone. I mean, I can type something and I'll read it and I'm like, oh, sweet. And then I can receive a text message from my mother-in-law and I'm like, I don't know what she means here. And it's sometimes it's the punctuation is missing. But also I'm like, is she annoyed? Is she happy? And then you start playing this game. I'm like, I don't have time to decode how somebody feels from words on my screen because the tone is missing. The tone is everything. Everything. And I think that that's part of social media that's so fun that I'm learning is like the tone in all of it. But also, you know, the busy is, we're all busy. Everyone is busy. Even if you don't want to use that word, if I shut this down, turn off the lights, and just stand in this space, I'm still going to hear stuff going on. Like there's still internet running through my house. There's still electricity. We're all so consumed by energy, you know, man-made and whatever, spiritual, religious, whatever you want to go into. But like, it's always go, 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 go. So I don't think you can really get away from the word busy. I think that you just have to be very mindful of what you're choosing to put in your schedule. Clear on your core values.
And I received, no, it didn't. I saw it on Facebook. Tim Ferriss, literally before I logged on here, and it's his not to-do list.
Nice. What's on there?
And there were two that were corkers. One of them was don't answer random phone calls. Don't check emails first thing in the morning. Don't attend meetings that aren't with clear agendas and clear start and finish times. Now that's one that I can relate to from work, going to random meetings, no agenda. You were in there for like 3 hours where we should have been out on the coal face helping children. And again, this was his response to making sure that you are using the best use of your time and that we get caught up. And I loved it. You said it earlier about, you know, habits. And the you do them, the better you become at them. And they can be productive, useful growth habits, or they can be destructive. And Chris, this friend of mine, has a beautiful one that he says to clients who'll come to him saying, I'm overeating, I'm not exercising every day, I'm doing this. And he said, you're consistent. So we just need to shift you to being consistent, doing stuff that's going to support you.
That's a super powerful moment in coaching right there. Because again, the person that's saying I'm overeating, I'm not exercising, I'm not doing all the things that I should be doing. they didn't see any of that. They didn't see consistency. They saw what I'm doing wrong, what I'm missing the mark on. They're seeing all the bad things. He, in that simple sentence, showed them what they were missing that was good in what they were doing. Now, yes, there's some sarcasm there and some play on the words, but that's actually crazy empowering to be like, actually, what you're doing is great. It's so good that you're doing all these things wrong because you're doing them wrong consistently. All we need is one win.
Yeah.
All we need is one win. Just like when you're making your business, all you need is your first sale. After your first sale, you're like, I've got proof of concept. I can make it better. I can make it better. I can. That's powerful coaching right there. Like, I love that guy. It's a guy, right? You said?
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really, really good. That's so good. I love that.
And it ties in nicely to what you said earlier about looking for what
Okay.
well,
Wow.
yeah,
Look,
yeah.
are you focusing on what you don't have, or are you focusing on what you have?
Mm.
That's it. Like, where your focus, I think Tony Robbins says that, where your focus goes, your energy flows, or
Yep.
something like that. It's what are you focusing on? I have used the word focus for at least 20 years when I'm teaching focus. And that's because in dance, like if we're turning and stuff, you have
Yeah.
to focus. You'll throw up. Okay, let's not fall on the floor and knock each other over. Let's focus on our focal point, all these things. The word focus is it's part of my being, but it was about maybe 7 years ago that I realized we were living in a tiny townhome, and I had 2 kids at that point. We were living in a tiny townhome, and I was really struggling with I wouldn't say with where we were in life, but with the fact that I was choosing to be a stay-at-home mom and homeschool my kids, but yet I really also desired to have a home, like with a yard for my kids, because they were getting old enough that like my son wanted to be outside and just be a boy, and my daughter wanted to like explore in the mud, and we lived in a townhome and we didn't have a yard, and it was really, really eating at me. Like for months, I would be so full of gratitude just watching them play in our tiny little quaint townhome, and grateful that I didn't have to go outside and do yard work and all the things, and that it fit in our budget, and that my husband could go to work and I could stay home because we've lived within a budget, you know, to be able to do this. And at the same moment, I was so full of gratitude. I was also like, oh, I want, this is not big enough. I feel like we had like the walker and all the things, and the house was like the walls were caving in, and homeschooling the kids. We had one table, and I would get very overwhelmed. Like there's just no space. We don't have enough space. Would drop the books on the floor and then put dinner on and then pick the stuff back up. And I realized then, about 7 years ago, like I was like, stop focusing on what we don't have. Stop focusing on the fact that we don't have a yard. Focus on what we do have. We have a small, precious little home that we didn't own. And of course I was focusing on, well, we don't own it. There's no investment there. I'm wasting like valuable time. I should be working while I can. Like my kids, no, I didn't, my core value was not that. I mean, I love my mom more than she's my superhero, but my mom was never around. She worked really hard to support us, to support me. And I just wanted to go the opposite. I think we all try to, you know, give and make up for what we didn't have, but like, I just really went the opposite. But I had to purposefully in that phase of my life, start focusing on all the good that we had. So we started making a lot more crafts, and we came up with like traditions that we still do to this day, because when you have a small space, you have to really focus on appreciating it, because everything else in society tells you should have a big elaborate space. You should go on vacations. You should have more material stuff. And we didn't have that. And so I was like, well, we're missing out. And I was like, ew, I caught myself. Ew, we're not missing out. Look at how lucky we are. I was able to have 2 home births in this tiny little apartment, like townhome. And, you know, I have healthy kids, and I love my husband. My husband, like, it was ridiculous when I realized, you know, focusing on what you do have is so important.
Beautiful.
But it's not the norm. It's not. You hear people complaining all the time about stuff, and you get in circles, and it's very different. Yeah, home births are the best. Yes, Fiona, I've had 3. I hope that means you're on board too. That's awesome.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's beautifully put, Ashley.
Oh, Fiona.
Oh, you've got a raving fan now.
That's so good.
It's You've just nailed it, haven't you, with that whole, appreciating what you've got and focusing on what you have got, but at the same time, being open to receive what you want. And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? It's the whole law of attraction has just had some interesting ways of being presented to us, and people get hung up on that idea, don't they, that stuff's just going to manifest and you just have to sit there and it'll happen. And I think this goes back to what we talked about with RAF. You do need to do something, enjoy the moment and enjoy what you've got, but staying open to being to receiving. And that's a work in progress for me, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the law of attraction. I mean, I love studying the spiritual laws of whatever. I mean, compensation, attraction, will, all of it. But I will say people get that so wrong. It's not you manifest it by thinking about it.
Mm.
You don't manifest it by thinking about it. You manifest it by feeling what it's going to feel like when you are living in that space. You have to fill yourself with gratitude every second of every day. I mean, the more you can fill yourself with gratitude, the faster it's coming, period, hands down. And I'll tell you, I say that. So like Kate, don't get me started on this topic, but the home that we live in now, for like the story I just gave you, we lived in a townhome that was a fraction of the home that we live in now. This is not a, oh my gosh, Ashley. I came from a trailer. I grew up in a trailer. My bedroom had a hole in the floor because it rotted out because my stepfather was not a handyman and thought he was, and did not install the air conditioning unit correctly. And so, anyways, long story short, things were just not so beautiful. But I never felt unloved or unneeded. Like my home space was great. We lived in this little townhome for a very long time, like 9 years. We were only supposed to be there for 3 years, and we just kept renewing the lease because we couldn't find anything else and we couldn't afford anything else yet. And the home that we live in now, I believe 100%, I believe that my husband and I and our manifesting, if you will, but our energy, our gratitude, our love that we filled that tiny townhome with every single day, and the energy of like appreciation for all that we have and being present in the moment, I think that's what helped us get this home. Because by the books, by the numbers, we shouldn't have this. There's not much that says, oh yes, you deserve the home that you have, but I love when you say that, because one of the biggest fears when we moved into this home that I had, Kate, this was right before I met you, and in that time of my life when we started this stuff, was, oh my gosh, I grew up with a mom who busted her butt. I'm adopted. So first off, I'm adopted. Like the woman that gave birth to me didn't even want me, right? So lucky me that somebody adopted me and wanted a daughter. She adopted me, and then she really truly could not afford to have another child at this phase of life. A lot of things went poor in our family situations. My mom was married and divorced and all these things, but she still gave me so much opportunity because she was a super hard worker and super determined and super independent and just relentless. That's where RAF comes in, that relentless, that determination. And so I don't think, even though my mom worked really, really hard, she didn't manifest anything monstrously beautiful in her life because she only worked hard. And I think that there's that. And then I think there's, oh, well, that's one aspect. You just work hard, go, 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 do. But you can't manifest anything bigger because you can't feel the gratitude. You're just in this like machine mode. And then the other side is what you were saying, like, oh, manifest it, law of attraction, but then you do nothing. You just think. Well, no, you're not going to get it either. There's like two sides of it. But the medium in the middle is you do have to take action every single day. But my dance framework, you have to take aligned action. It has to be in alignment, not busy work. None of that. Not just because everybody else is doing it that you're going to do it. It has to be truly aligned for the thing that you want. And the not to-do list, right? That's important. Like that's important. But also you have to be so full of gratitude for the knowing, the intuition, the trusting, the imagination that you've literally painted this picture. Like I painted the picture, we would live in a house with a big yard. Like I didn't know what that yard would look like. I didn't know the trees and the things, but like, I just knew that my kids would have a yard to play in. I just kept holding on to that. And my kids have a yard to play in, and I literally could cry every single day that I look outside and they're playing, because I'm just like, I remember the days I prayed and like begged and like imagined and dreamed this. But we worked really hard, and we still do every day. You know, it's the law of attraction, I think, helps us really get clear on our core values. I really do.
Mm.
But you have to feel it. You don't just go, oh, I wish I'm going to write this 10 times. That's nothing.
And I think that's the marketing side of it, isn't it? It can get the spiritual side and the feeling side can get lost in people just buying into the I'm just going to manifest this through thinking about it.
I think
People,
if you really study manifesting, you know better. I think if you really read the books and you really do the work, just like anything. I mean, I could say, I hear that I should run a funnel for my business. And
yeah.
so I don't know if anybody here runs, online businesses as well, but like a funnel is an example of like an email that says this and an email that says that, and an email that says this, and then all of a sudden they're going to buy, like that's a
Mm.
funnel, right? So, okay, well, everybody over here in this world says I should run funnels. Okay, so if I just go, okay, I'm gonna run a funnel, and I think that I know what it is, and I don't study it, and I don't educate myself and really learning lifestyle, really learn about it, and I just do half of what I see or all of what I see, but without educating myself and using my own critical thinking abilities, my funnel's not gonna work. Because I don't even learn that the tag needs to be this, and the hook needs to say this, and I need to go into the psychology of it. Like, I just did the bare minimum. I got lazy.
Mm.
I think if you really study law of attraction, at least from the angles that I've studied it and the books that I've read, like, it's very clear. It's not just thinking. It's almost feeling like you're a little bit loopy, a little bit woo-woo, like
Yeah.
a little disconnected, and going, I just believe it. I don't need to see it with my own eyes. I don't need to hold this cup to know that I have a cup of ice water. It's like being able to feel it, like just closing my eyes and feel it. Then that's the law of attraction. Like, feel the ice in my mouth. And I know that sounds weird for some people. It's my son sometimes is like, Mom, you're getting a little crazy. I'm like, oh, it's so fun.
Oh, beautiful. I
Yeah.
thank you, Ashley. Yeah, that's a really neat note to perhaps wind down, because I'm super aware of the time for you, that end.
Oh, I'm fine. I feel like we touched on so many things, Kate. I mean, we started off from like how we met to homeschooling to, getting clear on like what education and academics and learning is. I mean, we went all over the map. So hopefully everybody was along for the journey with us. I know Fiona was.
Yeah, that'll be a deep dive for
Over.
later. Well, we'll just have to
Oh
come back, won't we? We'll just have to do another one. Yeah.
oh my gosh, I would love to. So fun.
And I must say, I'm just captivated by that piece of art behind you. It's
Oh, thank you. I'll tell you a funny story about this art. It was at TJ Maxx, so I think it was like $40. And I love the yellow in it.
yeah,
And the only reason I look at a lot of things and I'm like, oh, I love that, but we're not gonna buy, we don't need it, just fun to like, it's fun to shop and like look, but we don't buy a lot of stuff. We're pretty minimalist at heart. And when I looked at this with my kids, I had all three of my kids, both of my girls saw something similar. Like it was a person that they saw like doing something. It was also vertical. And then my son saw something so crazy different. And I just saw color and abstract. And I love that we got to have a conversation. Like, it brought about a conversation. So I was like, oh, we're getting this one.
talking point. Yeah. Well, I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, and they flipped it. If it's up the other way, they think that like over here is a face, like a person, and it's pretty
Yeah.
fun.
There you go. Hey,
Conversation,
a
conversation.
conversation. Yeah. Art's about conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Ashley, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely loved hearing your story. And yeah, some really moving stuff in there. Personal stuff. Thank you for sharing. And
Of course, I feel like it's what we're supposed to do. Oh, thank you, Hixie. Thanks for that. That was sweet. I think that that's what we're all meant to do here, is share and build communities and just leave like a legacy. Live it now though. Like, what is it that you can do to give back into the world? And if it's sharing your experiences or your knowledge that you've learned. I think that's what we're obligated to do as humans. So I think that I appreciate you having me on, Kate. It means a lot. Thank you.
Bless you. Well, look, we'll let you get off to bed and look forward to catching up with you in the not too distant future.
Yes, yes.
Keep
I
connected.
hope every one of you guys has a good rest of your Friday. Have a beautiful Friday, everyone. I'll catch up to my Friday after I go to sleep.
You'll see it tomorrow. And Ashley, do send us your link to your stuff, because
yeah.
you
I can
didn't
put it right in the chat, or do you want me to send it to you?
you can pop it in the chat, but if you can send it to me as well, because then I can share it in the group. Yeah.
I will. So I teach tap dancing online. And I have courses, memberships, a la carte classes. Like I have all sorts of stuff, but I have a beautiful membership of adults like 35 and up. I do have some that are younger than 35, but I just group them in. I told them, I'm like, I'm just going to group you in. Don't get offended that I'm making you older. But it's about dancing through life. And I coach on my dance framework, and we tap dance and we have fun, because that's what we are supposed to do, is have fun.
Love it. Brilliant.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful rest of your day, everyone.
You too. Oh,
Thanks,
no.
Kate. Yeah, thank
Have
you,
a great
Fiona.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.